What's up, y'all? I just had the chance to reread this book, Ian Watson's Warhammer 40K novel, Space Marine. This book is probably the best introduction to the Warhammer 40,000 universe. Aside from Dawn of War, the older real-time strategy game, I'd say both of those are a really, really good way of experiencing this entertainment universe. The way I was introduced to it was when I lived in Mexico about 13 years ago. One of my friends, I was at an international school, he was from Canada. And I think due to the British influence on Canada, he had heard a lot more about this British creation, Games Workshop and Warhammer 40,000. If you're not too familiar with it, if I could best explain, imagine if Catholic totalitarian Europe from the Dark Ages, if that era of human history had been replicated into a sci-fi setting. That is essentially, that's the best way I can describe it, and it's fascinating. It always says, in the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. And this book is great. It's a bit old, so I don't think it came out in an era when 40K's canon was in its current form and had been standardized, but who knows, the way things are going politically, I hear that even the canon of 40K finds itself changing a bit with the custodies and things of that nature. This book follows 3 characters as they go on to become Space Marines, and it's quite the ride. I really enjoyed this book. I'm glad I reread it, and I do recommend it. As I read, it kind of became pretty apparent just how much that you can tell that StarCraft kind of carbon copied a good amount of Warhammer's ideas and lore. Obviously, it took it in a slightly different direction for the first game, but by the second StarCraft game, my goodness, does it really feel like it's kind of recycling itself into 40K. That'll probably be a future topic. But this book is written very well. The prose is very unique. I don't quite know how to convey. It's just something you sort of have to experience. It kind of feels almost poetic, and the level of detail is astounding. I guess it really does feel as if you're in that futuristic, uncanny, violent setting. And again, the book follows their journey as they encounter any number of combat and insurgencies and crazy experiences that you can imagine the Warhammer 40K universe. The only complaint I would say is that in the middle portion of the book, there's a section where they try and introduce the presence of the forces of chaos, which is important to the lore. I just think it could have been done the way we got there could have been a little better put together. But other than that, the intro of the book's great. Most of the components in the center are really good, and the finale is something to behold. And for this book, I just want to read a couple portions from it that really, really stand out. The crusade was incomplete. The Imperial fists must punch their way through the warp once more. Yet this was very life itself. What other life was there? To pray was to slay righteously, that the human galaxy might be free from all manner of evil, both of alien and of corrupted human origin, and also of unmentionable source. The yeast must be pure, or the stars would be poisoned. Death. Thus spake life to a universe which had once harbored millions of swarming worlds, yet at the same time essentially comprised nothingness, vacuity. Thus life addressed that universe in its own terms, only more loudly so, since life engaged in the trade of active death. His sacred vows to Rogel Dorn, the sanctity of the Emperor on Earth, the loyalty of the other fists, who had surely abandoned Lex to this fate, as had a Rogel Dorn, who was dead forever, as had the Emperor, who was all but moribund, and whose reign was now surely drawing to its close, yielding to the reign of what? Those ships. They suggested fossilized ancient creatures which might once have grazed the submarine abyss of giant worlds, sucking up whales as if whales were minnows. Creatures which had petrified 100 million years previously, yet nevertheless were still virulently alive, still ravenous. 1,000 such ships, many of them even more gargantuan than the torpedo's own chosen target, which now drifted in to the Lacrima Dolorosa system. The natives of Lacrima Dolorosa 3 were almost certainly doomed, an event which in itself was of no account, a fate that was inherently trivial, except, of course, to the victims. As the great cyst ejected an armored form that wasn't any Marines, the armor was tarnished, mottled and blotched as if its very molecules were diseased, quite mummified in the sarcophagus of the suit. The eyes had dried to tiny buttons on thread, long since. The lieutenant tested a skin sample. The carbon reading gives an estimate of 14,000 years, plus or minus 2,000 eons since, in another galaxy, way before the molluscoid vessel must have even commenced its crossing of the deeps. A sense of awe stole over the fists. The alien's branded gauntlet still clutched, claw-like, a handgun of convoluted design made of some ceramic material. As in this galaxy, so in others far away, death was the currency, so it seemed. "Don't you see, Zed?" asked the lieutenant. "This assassin creature has been made from orc seed. Look at its green face. Orc genes have been perverted into this foul, lethal shape." "Pretty good weapon," grunted Biff. "Yes, pretty good." His tone was bitter. "These beings on board this ship, these things from another galaxy, must have gathered orcs from some frontier Sistar on their way into our galaxy and done this with them. Oh, I reserve the right to kill all orcs I come across. Oh, yes, I do indeed, but they remain our galaxy's orcs. The human galaxy's, our Emperor's galaxy. How dare extragalactic creatures come here to harvest and pervert our natives?" The lieutenant kicked the corpse. His voice hushed. "I don't believe we could accomplish this trick. No, I don't, or else we would have. Seems as how they made gene stealers," said Jerome. "Made them from something else, I guess. Now this, and what else besides? What other species might they have their eyes set on? Could it be any species, whatever they come across, including us? We mustn't leave any dead fists behind. I must communicate this thought to the Terminator librarians. Imagine if the creatures can transform an orc into this self-propelled weapon Could they lay their claws on our glands? If they could capture the code of our blessed Primarch? So where are the alien filth? Stumpy humanoids with photally large bald heads. Their arms had been abolished, becoming mere vestigial nubs poking back from their shoulders as though otherwise they might attempt to tear off the parasitical organic machines that infested their faces. Tubes plunged into their mouths, their nostrils, and their eye sockets. A clawed foot held tight to the dome of their skulls. A single large eyeball, cinctured with a bony cup, rose about that foot fixture and beamed out leprous light. Now battling against the intruding Marines. Blasphemy! One of the scouts vomited, and Lex rounded on him. Moron! You're putting your juices into this ship to taste! Human stock. They come from human stock. We breed cyborgs, Biff reminded him quietly. Ah, but in the Emperor's service, Yeri retorted tightly. That's very different, isn't it? That's sacramental labor, isn't it? Isn't it? Of course it is, Biff agreed. Ian Watson, Space Marine, gets an